Rinkcast, what's going on? Happy opening day in the baseball world, but we're going to be talking hockey again tonight. How are you all? Season 8, episode 24 of this year's podcast. We got an hour Rinkcast, so you all can enjoy the Sweet 16 if you're a basketball fan or if you're still a hockey fan, which we hope you are, to watch some college hockey, which is really good tonight with the Sweet 16 of college hockey, actually. Anyway, fellas, what's going on? Sean Fitzgerald, how are you today? You got your Cubs hat and your hostess shirt on. You look organized.
I am very organized, supporting my teams. In addition to the Sweet 16 and Sweet 16 in hockey, it's also Cubs opening day, and there's been a bunch of opening days today. So just a great sports day. So
really good sports day. Good call. Good call. And Bardo, wearing the cap of your alma mater, I see.
Big game. Cap is probably old. Cap is probably older than you guys, and probably older than half our audience too.
Yeah, you can't lose with game hats. Game hats in the 90s, pretty clutch.
Yeah, I bought this thing in '94 when I got there as a freshman. So
that's awesome.
Wow, awesome.
Yeah, cool. Jimmy, you weren't alive, were you?
No, I was 5 years from being alive.
Wow.
Oh God,
but I'll tell you what is alive is Jimmy's latest article, folks. Jimmy O'Malley is here. And he wrote an awesome piece today giving letter grades for the Chicago Blackhawks. It's very good. If you haven't seen it yet, get on our socials, get on the rink.com, check it out. Any of the socials that you see here, jump all over it. It's awesome. Giving the Blackhawks letter grades, individual letter grades, and the Ice Hogs individual letter grades for their performances this year. And that's what we're doing tonight. That is the impetus of our show here. No, we are not talking about how Tortorella will not be a good fit in Chicago. We're going to be talking about some other stuff here.
We'll talk about that later.
Yeah, we might touch base on that when we can. But either way, letter grades, performance-based, if you will, performative classroom session. We are the faculty. Jimmy, talk to us about the article that you wrote before we get started. Talk to us about the grading criteria that you used and talk about the eligibility. So who are we going to be talking about? Who's eligible in these categories that you got?
All right, I'll start with grading criteria. We were talking actually a couple of days ago. Andy brought this up about grading the players. Oh, wow. I hear a couple of dogs out there. They already hate my grades.
Yeah.
But it just got me rolling with this idea. I started writing an article. So I'll start with grading criteria. I based off two factors. I call them objective output and subjective assessment. Objective output is kind of as straightforward as it gets. Advanced and counting stats, your goals, your assists, your plus minus, which isn't factored at all, how you did on the penalty kill, your power play. And then subjective assessments, kind of just objective output in a window of like what your expectations were coming into the season, your previous season's output, along with kind of what I called an unquantifiable value to the team or teammates, kind of like a locker room presence is probably the best way to put it. It's not a perfect way.
So that's like class participation grade?
Kind of a class participation where, you know, like where you're the fun person to be around kind of thing. So I've
done class participation.
Yeah.
That's how I got my grades. That's about it.
That's how I passed some classes.
That's how some guys pass, you know, that's fine. Yeah. So after I came up with my criteria, I came up with basically three different rosters. I had the Blackhawks roster, and the criteria for this is very simple. They must currently be on the Blackhawks roster. This excludes anyone that was traded away. And they must have played at least 25 games for the Blackhawks. So this means it excludes anyone traded for. So I didn't grade Spencer Knight or Joe Veleno. Like it's not a big enough sample size. My next group assessment was kind of in the middle. I called it the Blackhawks / Ice Hogs roster grades criteria. Basically just 10 games for both the Blackhawks and the Ice Hogs. This cut out guys like Korchinski and Levshunov, although after Friday's game, Levshunov would qualify. And the grading is basically cumulative grade based on performance, both in the NHL and AHL.
Yeah.
You have guys like Joey Anderson in there, Frank Nazar. That's where those guys kind of fit in.
So Levshunov, folks, gets a Rockford grade, but does not get a Blackhawks grade.
Yeah, he is purely Ice Hogs roster, which for this criteria is simply they must have played less than 10 games with the Blackhawks, must have played at least 30 games with the Rockford Ice Hogs. I exempted Andreas Athanasiou because he had some injury and he's been performing well, so I wanted to give him a grade. But that also cuts out like those like in and out guys, because Rockford, you have a huge roster and a ton of guys just kind of
Yeah.
play.
Got it.
Yeah, the guys who come up from Indy and go.
Yeah,
back
like the Indy Fuel guys, like I didn't want to grade them because I
Yeah,
just
that
didn't
makes
know
sense.
enough.
Okay.
And then the grades, kind of like with previous players, it's just based on how they performed with the Ice Hogs, along with the limited showcase of the Blackhawks. But I didn't really put a lot of weight to that play. So like I didn't put a ton of weight into like Korchinski's 9 games or Komiso's 2 games in the NHL.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense.
You know, it would skew the grading to make no sense. So that's kind of how I went with it. It was 3 groups based on that grading criteria, and that's kind of how most players sorted out.
Awesome. Well, good stuff, man. Well, let's get right to it. So no In-N-Out burgers, no ECHL, and Rockford chaps. And obviously, how this is going to go, folks, we're going to talk about Jimmy's grades, what he gave each player. We're all going to comment. We're going to mention if we agree or disagree. We're going to give a letter grade. When we get to Rockford, that's going to be Jimmy's floor. A lot of those Rockford guys, they'll be incompletes, I guess, in my class, just because I don't really follow Rockford as closely as we should. So, all right, we ready? So the first player, Connor Bedard. Connor Bedard. Yeah, we're going alphabetical by position, forwards first, defenseman second, then the goalies. Would you rate Connor Bedard for the year for his performance?
I gave Connor Bedard a very well-deserved A-. I didn't give him an A. I had my reasons. My biggest reason for giving him an A- instead of an A, there were 2 noticeable things. It was cold streaks, and the biggest thing to me was penalty minutes. He's doubled his penalty minutes from last season.
Yeah.
I think that has a lot to do with the game misconducts, which just goes to show this guy's very emotional. He's a young kid. Again, he's 19 years old. We talk about it ad nauseum on the show. But that's still kind of a negative that I put against him. Like, he's going to have to mature and rein in his emotions when calls don't get his way. I know us as Blackhawks fans, we hate, especially what we saw yesterday with Nemec, Bedard, and Slaggert. Like, that sucked. But I still look at Bedard as like, okay, you gotta cool it down a bit. You can't be breaking your sticks on the side, near the bench. You can't be yelling at officials, getting yourself game misconducts. But then again, the kid has had a great year, 56 points in 72 games. I put this in the article. He's the second player in NHL history to reach 40 goals and 70 assists as a teenager, joining just Sidney Crosby. Like, what an elite status that is.
But I thought he was underwhelming.
Apparently some people think he is, but it's just the sophomore blues. He's Andy, from Toy Story too. He's like, I don't want to play with you anymore. It's less exciting. The cool kids are the Michkovs, the Celebrinis, your Lane Hudsons, Bedard is old news for so many people, and it's undeserved in my opinion, but an A- makes a ton of sense for his season.
Gotcha. Bardo, A-? You feeling A- with Bedard? Do you agree, disagree? Do you think that's accurate?
I think it's accurate. I think, when you look at the positives, I mean, he's staying consistent in terms of his output relative to where he was last year. The good news is he's also stayed healthy, as Jimmy wrote. I mean, so all that is positive. I think the cold streaks are a little bit concerning, but for a guy who's literally had a turnstile of players on the wing and just zero consistency, I mean, I think he's still producing. So we have to be happy about that. And remember, he's only 19. So,
yeah, Sean, A- in your wheelhouse?
Yeah, an A- is good. I would disagree with Jimmy about the breaking of the stick things. I mean, Donato did that the other night too out of frustration. So I think, I don't know what it is, but I think the referees have something, I don't want to say against the Blackhawks, but last night, especially in other games, I think Connor Bedard kind of was the victim of just being so young in the league. I think if several years in, if he says what he says, I don't think he gets a 10-minute penalty years from now, because I don't think he has that respect from referees. But yes, an A-. I also like that he was a center for the majority of the year. Now he's moved to the wing, and you've started seeing, he's done really well in the wing. So maybe that takes him to the next level next year, because being a center is a lot different responsibility wise than being a wing. So, but I 100% agree with Jimmy's A- grade.
Awesome. Jimmy, in your article, I agree with most of your assessments here. I'm going B+.
Really?
I'm not putting
Ooh.
Bedard in the A range this year, and the only reason being that if
You didn't sign your card.
he didn't, he walked by me, yeah, because he didn't say hi to Jeremy Roenick. That's why. Yeah. No, I'm just going B plus, just based on the fact that I maybe I'm being too critical of everybody, but if you're in the A range, you exceeded expectations.
True.
And I really think that Bedard, to me, if you told me before the year this is production wise where he would be, I would feel a little bit let down. Not his fault. He's 19 years old. He still has to grow, but there are aspects of his game that he really, really needs to improve on. He will improve on the flybys at the defensive blue line, the not stopping and starting on the pucks. For whatever reason, those things are getting to me lately. Now that's the only reason to B plus. That might be too harsh of a grade, Jimmy. Out of all of yours, that might be the only one that I'm kind of on the fence about. But that's where I am with Bedard. But I could see the A minus too, B plus. Maybe if he submits an extra credit assignment and has like a hat trick or something in the next few games, then he'll be in there.
Plays in the World Championships. That'll be his extra credit assignment.
Yeah.
Well, or if he passes Eddie O for the most points in Blackhawks history under 21, under 20.
There you go. But either way, Connor Bedard is just fine. Let's move on to Tyler Bertuzzi, who Jimmy gave. Jimmy's grade is a C plus / B minus. I'm going to go to Bard first, and then Sean, and then I'll comment, and then go Jimmy, and we'll just kind of mix it up order wise. Is that okay, guys? Cool.
Perfect.
Bard, do you agree? C plus, B minus ish?
I actually would go C plus. I think the positive that you gave him when he's on, he can score, and that's great and all, but that just reeks of being streaky. And he's just too streaky for me. And there was a big gap in the beginning of this season where he just did nothing. He was invisible, and you just didn't even see him even physically do anything. So I'm going to give him a C plus. I like where his game is now, and maybe he just needed time to sort of, figure out his place in the lineup. But I think this has been sort of an average meh year for me, and that's why I'm saying C plus.
Yeah, cool. Shawnee,
I'm giving him a C minus.
Whoa!
I think like
Really?
yeah, the cold streak. He went like 20 games without a point.
Yeah,
like that. If you pay a guy in free agency the kind of money he's making, you can't have that. I'm sorry.
What is his cap hit exactly again?
I don't know off the top of my head, but I know his play was so poor he was demoted to the fourth line at
5.5. Yeah, that's a decent.
He was playing fourth line minutes. He was brought in. Mark Lazarus suggested in an article last week that he's a buyout candidate. That's how poorly people view his play this season. And I'm one of them. I'm saying C minus for Tyler Bertuzzi.
Wow, that's hardcore. I'm going B minus. Reason he has 20 goals. He's still, and he's played well recently. If he gets out of this season with 25 plus goals, that would kind of be like what I thought he would do on a team of this caliber. So yeah, I think to your point, Sean, that one cold stretch he had was so bad. And it was like, where is he? Like, what's going on? He's been great on the power play though. He's put up really good power play numbers. So I'm going to go B minus on the whole C plus B minus. Jimmy, you gave the initial letter grades. Talk to us about your methodology, reasoning behind it.
I was kind of with Bard on this one. It's just he was brought in to be three things: a net front presence, physical play, 20-ish goals a year. Yesterday he got his 20 goals. He's decently physical. He sits in front of the net on the power play. Does he fill the role that he was kind of brought in to do? Yes, I think he fills that role, which is why I gave him that C plus B minus. It's like, okay, you're kind of where we want you. But I also put in my assessment, it's like, this guy's streaky as hell. Like, these last 5 games, he's been awesome. I think it was, 8 points in the last 5. And if he can keep that up, obviously through the rest of the season, it could get him up to 50 points.
Yeah.
But you remember just January and February where he was just like, he's just skating out there.
Yeah, he was just kind of coasting around.
Just coasting.
Yeah.
So
he literally played his way off of the top line. I mean, and he should have been with Bedard, start to finish, and been that, bodyguard, big forward that he can, find in space. So
Yeah, maybe Sean, you're onto something with that C mini, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard. These are hard grades. The subjective part is hard.
It's really hard because objectively, he kind of did what the Blackhawks
Right,
wanted.
objectively, I agree with you, but then like the eye test and the smell
Yeah,
test,
it's been bad lately.
yeah.
But
I
I
think
think
what I said in my article, he just feels off. Like,
That's a good take, Jimmy.
Yeah, good call.
Although I disagree with Lazarus. I don't think he's a buyout candidate. I think when the team gets better around him and scoring can come from the third line as well as the first line, because this team again is so top heavy with its scoring. I think he'll find his way into being the effective guy he was in Detroit and Boston and Toronto.
I think it's hard when you have a guy who is paid the way he's paid for playoff performance and he's not going to be in the playoffs. So it's like he's just kind of I don't know. We'll see. And I don't think they'll be in the playoffs next year either, but wow. All right. Good stuff. All right. Sean is going to kick us off with the next one. Jason Dickinson, who Jimmy gave a D-. Sean.
I'm going to give him an F.
Whoa.
Yeah, I'm gonna give him an F. Jimmy's D- I think was just too kind. Like last year, he had 22 goals. He was really, really good last year. This year, he's been hurt. He's been inconsistent. Like now, he's done for the year. Like there's and they paid him, so now they're on the hook for $4.5 million roughly for next season based on last year. We thought he was a steal last season from Vancouver, and he played really well. Now the scoring output was like a career high, I think, for him, but he didn't even come anywhere close to it this year. I thought and let's be honest with you here, like D-, this team sucks. Like it does. It sucks. So like some guys gotta get Fs. Jason Dickinson gets an F.
That's awesome. I love it. No, good stuff. I guess it's funny when in Jimmy's article, folks, please read Jimmy's article. It's all out there. When Jimmy wrote the assessment, one of the things that he wrote in the beginning was the only surprise of this grading should be, how is he not an F? So that's Sean's question right there. No. I'm going to stay with the D-, I guess, just because he does have, as Jimmy put in the article, defensive upside. He is 50% in the dot. He was very helpful for Connor Bedard to try to get him out of the slump when they put him on his line for a little bit there. But he's very close to failing. I mean, maybe he gets an E, failing with effort, if that were a grade. But yeah, he's close to that. He's been disappointing. Jimmy, thoughts on Jason Dickinson and your commentary?
Yeah, you mentioned face-off percentage. He has the team's best face-off percentage of players with more than 30 games. Mm-hmm. And I hate giving Fs to guys that are just injured. I don't put that on guys for being injured. Like there are guys on my list and I do have Fs and I look at them and I go, well, Dickinson's hurt. What's your excuse? Like you just like the guys that have Fs, I'm like, you just plainly stink at this. Like Dickinson has the excuse of just being hurt and still has that defensive upside and can take faceoffs. What exactly do you do? Right. So yeah, like I had to squint and tilt and just kind of look, be like, I don't want to give you an F. I really had to squint and tilt. But I think D-.
We got a 70 and F was a 69. We get
it. Like that's kind of like an F is 0.1 under the grade you got, and you only got it because you were sick the entire week. We went over this material and have just taken the test just to take it. But yeah, I don't love giving failing grades to guys that just struggle with injury. I think that's kind of what was my motivation. But yeah, D-, bordering on failure. I think the Blackhawks should probably look to clear his cap if they can this summer.
Yeah. This is the guy they actually traded for.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. Oh man. Well, good luck, JD. Get healthy soon. So luckily for me, well, I guess on the topic of do you pay the man or not, that brings up Ryan Donato, and it's a free agent to be Ryan Donato. But this is an easy one. I think Ryan Donato's an A. He's had an A season, period. Mm-hmm. I mean, a career year. He's been just fantastic. His assist last night on the power play, Levshinov dives to keep it in. Could have been a breakaway the other way, and Donato with that stick lift puts it in front of the net for the tap in. He's been terrific. He's got 25 goals right now. And I mean, if you were to tell us at the beginning of the season that there's a possibility Ryan Donato could have 30 goals and 60 points, which may be where he lands, I would have laughed my head off at you. So I know we'll go around the room here, but Ryan Donato is an A. We'll see where this leads with his next contract. It sounds like he's staying. Hopefully they can get it done soon. Hopefully they can get it done before free agency opens up. So there aren't any competitors for him. But any other thoughts, Jimmy, Ryan Donato? We can go around real quick.
Yeah, I mean, the only negatives I had were, can he keep this up? Like he was a jack of all trades. It feels like you could put him on the first or fourth line and he'll find a way to be valuable.
Yeah.
Even in the article I wrote, oh man, let's hope it's not a Kurashev situation. But the more I think about it, it's like, no, Kurashev was only productive because of Bedard. Donato's productive anywhere.
Yeah.
And that gives me reason to believe bringing him back wouldn't kill us. Again, I also think of Jason Dickinson, same age. Dickinson's 29, Donato's 28. But at the same time, I really enjoy his play. He's avoided injury the last 2 years as a Blackhawk. I mean, he's played 70 games, which I think makes him third in games played this year on the Blackhawks. Well, 4 players have 72. He's one of 2 with 70.
Mm-hmm.
So clean bill of health for the last 2 seasons, 55 points in 70 games. At 28 years old, I can't find a part of his game that I can complain about.
Yeah.
He's the anti-Jason Dickinson is really what it is. I mean, as bad as Dickinson is, I mean, you got to give it to Donato. He's had a great year. Timed it well for his contract year. So
and Donato brings it 100% every game. Like you're never going to question Ryan Donato's effort. No, and I think that's something that's a great example for these younger guys who, like, Ryan Donato can still be considered a veteran, but he's still young enough to kind of mix it up with the younger guys, and they see that this guy brings it every night. And he's been saying he wants to find his hockey home. Like, he's kind of been a vagabond for a little bit. And I think, being in Chicago, I think A is the absolute correct grade for him.
Yeah. He's a leader too. And what's his name? Awesome. Bedard said that he's, one of his closest friends. So, I mean,
it's awesome that he's found a home. And hopefully they re-sign him for a decent term and a decent hit, and he can keep it up. It's great stuff. Well, congrats to Ryan Donato on your season. Dexter Southfield alum. Glad I'm not coaching against you like I was 10 years ago. That was brutal. Nick, Jimmy's up on Nick Foligno. This is an interesting one. Jimmy, you gave him a C-. Talk to us, and then we go to Bard.
Yeah, this is one of those grades where class participation really helped the guy. He's had a pretty rough season.
He's not been great.
He's older. His skates aren't under him the way it was even last year. That being said, I mean, still, he's probably going to end the season with over 30 points. That's okay for a bottom 6 center. He's a team leader. Guys respect him, especially the young guys. I always appreciated his outspokenness about team performance, especially his comments about Seth Jones after he left. I like that he's just straightforward and honest. I think he's a guy that the locker room really appreciates. I mean, you wouldn't give him the C if he wasn't a leader, and I believe he is. So giving him that C-, it's more about just the leadership he provides. He's good with the media. He represents the team well in front of the media. He leads this young crew very well. He's very much the dad of the team, other than Pat Maroon. Yeah. But I think this grade is definitely one of those. Thank you for being a good captain, even though your performance is dipping significantly.
Yeah.
But I mean, 30 points. If he's on the third, fourth line last year and scratched half the time, 30 points isn't deadly.
Right.
But I mean, C-. This is a decent captain grade.
Yeah. You with that, Bardo?
I'm actually going to go C+. I'll tell you why. I actually think that his expectations for him might have been a little bit inflated for a couple of reasons, because he had a productive year last year and he was getting more top 6 minutes than he was this year. I think that's part of it. And I think also the contract sort of, goes against him. I mean, he's getting paid more like a middle 6 guy than a bottom 6 guy. Mm-hmm. So, and so thus I think the expectations are a little higher, because if you look at it in a vacuum and say, you know what, Nick Foligno got you 12 goals and 30 points as a bottom 6 guy, I think we'd all be happy with that and probably give him like a B+, maybe even an A. But I think the expectations were a little higher. So that's why I'm going to grade it a little bit on a curve. and say kind of C plus. His game is definitely not as good last year, but I think he's reaching the mean right now. I think this is what he is.
Yeah.
Last year was just a career year because of where he was playing. I think this is kind of water finding its level.
Oh, good. I like that analogy. Sean, where are you with all this?
Yeah, I'm with Bardo. I think the intangibles in the room are really what you paid him for and really what he's there for. And like Bardo just said, like he played on the top line with Bedard last year, and everything he gives to this team and to the young guys is a bonus. Like he's one of those. He's a grizzled veteran that you want to kind of nurture your young team and hope they learn from him. And like Jimmy said, I love that he's outspoken. I like that I don't think he liked how the locker room was being handled when Seth Jones was here. And I think he was pretty outspoken when he was gone. So
yeah, I like that.
I'll go with Bardo.
Yeah. Okay. I'll go C. I guess I'll kind of split the difference there, but I think that for all of the reasons that you all outlined, I mean, he's 37 years old. He'll turn 38 in the fall, and it's got to wear on you being on a team like this where you're at the end of your career and you've got to try to lead a team that you're driving to the end of the earth with, and there's no light at the end of the tunnel because they're not going to be a playoff team. So I mean that's got to wear on you, and I think he is showing his age. I think at this stage of his career, but a good solid C. Good leadership, and for everything that you guys just said. Now I know that, when we talk about guys and how they follow a career year, I don't know if anyone saw what happened to this guy coming this year, but Barter, you're up on Philip Kurashev, the guy that we sometimes forget is on the team this year.
Yeah, I disagree with this grade, actually. I would go with a Z. Yeah, I actually was dead wrong about him because I was one of the guys who said that they should keep him into this year and versus kind of trade him last year. I'm wiping the egg off my face if you look closely. He has been awful. He's challenging Dickinson for picking up the rear. I mean, of being somebody who's gotten an F. I mean, he's completely disappeared. I don't know. His effort looks very shoddy. I think he's just done. I don't know what it is. What happened to him? He's just fallen off the planet.
Yeah. Is this his last year in the NHL?
I could see him going over to Europe, to be honest with you. I think I wouldn't be surprised.
It kind of reminds me of Marcus Kruger when in his last year with the Hawks, where it was like, this is his last year in the NHL.
But at least Marcus Kruger had multiple Stanley Cup rings at that time.
Right. Oh, totally.
And had value as a fourth line shutdown guy. Kurashev, his only shot is basically going to Edmonton so Stan Bowman can save his career, or he's going to get flipped over to the KHL or something like that. To revive his game. I don't see him back. So I think he's done.
Yeah. Sean, F+, F- for Philippe.
Oh, out of town.
Yeah.
He's going to be out of town. Like Jimmy's assessment was correct. Like he disappeared. Even the effort's not even there. There was a couple times where like they singled him, like national media guys singled him out for making a rink turn in the offensive zone. It's a bad year. I disagree. I don't think he's going to go to Europe next year. I think he's going to bang around the AHL for a couple seasons.
Very possible. Yeah.
Before he goes. I have a feeling he'll play Vinny Hinostroza's still banging around down there. Granted, Vinny's a little bit more productive, but I still think Kurashev will bang around the AHL, not with the Hawks, but with somebody else for a couple of years before he goes over to Europe.
Mr. Kurashev might want to get used to these three letters, PTO.
Ooh, nice.
And it's not paid time off either.
No. I mean, I don't know who's going to give him a contract. He just looks so disengaged. I don't know what happened. No one knows what happened. He's pretty lost. His confidence is totally shot. Jimmy, you mentioned in your article, one of his positives is he does not take penalties. I think that's actually for lack of engagement more than anything else.
Yeah.
It's not because he's mean-spirited. It's troubling. It stinks. F is warranted. Jimmy, any comments on that grade? Or
I'll just read out my full assessment of Kurashev. that I wrote in my article.
Do it.
Kurashev will not be a Blackhawk next season, so why bother?
There we go.
I didn't bother even giving the guy a paragraph. He's not going to be here, so who cares?
Yeah.
He's just bad.
Man, brutal. Well, good luck, Philip, wherever you are next year. Sean, tell us about Pat Maroon. Jimmy gave him a B-. Where are you at?
I'm going to give him a B- too. I'm going to agree with Jimmy. I think Pat Maroon was brought in to be a veteran leader. He clearly was there to mentor. He took Lucas Reichel under his wing. And now that, like, I keep saying Seth Jones, but Seth Jones is gone, Pat Maroon's like having fun with some of these guys. This is his swan song, so he's going to retire at the end of this year. And so he didn't have to – he could have retired before this year and not have to come to Chicago. But he came to Chicago. He knew what the assignment was, and I think he's understood it. Yeah. And I want to congratulate Pat Maroon on a great career, 3-time Stanley Cup champion.
Pretty impressive.
Back to back to back.
Yeah.
And I think we'll see him working in St. Louis's front office or something like that. He's definitely going to go back home, I think. But yeah, B- is perfect for Pat Maroon.
Yeah, I like it. I'm actually going to go B. I don't know. And part of that is just the value of character and who he is. And he's been such a good spokesperson for this team. He's not afraid to chuck them. If something happens, he'll drop gloves with anybody out there. He'll run people over. I'm a big Pat Maroon fan, and it's really cool that he was able to, kind of do a quick flyby here in Chicago, even though we didn't get his best years. But so I'll go B. Jimmy, you're B-.
Yeah, him kind of like Foligno, his intangibles and off the ice stuff really boosted his grade. I mean, my favorite thing about Pat Maroon's season was in St. Louis after he announced he was retiring. I go on Instagram, and I'm talking every young Blackhawk puts on their story something about his retirement. I remember Dard, Nazar, Slaggert, Doc, and Reichel. They all had something about him, which tells me this guy is great with young players, and it's perfect. I mean, 1 year, $1 million. He's a fourth-line plugger. He's gotten you 18 points in 62 games. That ain't bad.
Not at all.
He's the big rig. He's the guy that every young player, it seems, just completely gravitates to him. And that's something you need. You just need you need gravity guys in seasons like this where from game 1 to game 82, you're not in it. You're just learning how to be an NHLer, and having a guy with the attitude that Maroon had going in and continues to have this entire season, easy B-. I had a tough time not giving him a higher grade.
Yeah, I like it.
I actually want to give him a B, maybe even a B+, because I actually look at Maroon, and he's a guy that I've actually followed for most of his career. I've always admired his game, being that he plays a fourth line role. They put him in on the power play in front of the net. He scores big goals. He always comes through with big hits in the postseason. 3-time Stanley Cup winner. I actually, he was a guy that I was hoping the Hawks would get, when they were making their runs like back in 2015 or so, but never happened. But yeah, I mean, look, he's been a fun teammate to follow, hearing the younger guys, gravitate towards him. And so I got to give him a B. Wish him luck, obviously, in his future, and glad he's going to retire. With his last season being in Chicago, so good for him.
I loved hating him when he was with Anaheim.
Oh yeah,
like he was. You're like, this guy's going to hit you, and he's going to bring personality, and you just hated that.
Yeah,
but
he was never dirty. That's the thing.
No, he was never dirty. That's the thing. Like you respected him for the game he played, but you hated it. But he was never dirty. He wasn't Rafi Torres or any of that crap.
Yeah, no, he wasn't Rafi Torres, Biesca, those dirty fuckers.
Yeah.
It's okay. We've got an E on our thing.
The following podcast is rated R.
Hard wants this show to be an adult show, because he's tired of marketing to the kids.
These kids are watching the Pat McAfee show. I got news for you. They're a lot more vulgar than we are.
Oh, that's true.
No, we're fine. We're good. Move on to Ilya Mikheyev, and that's me. Jimmy gave him a B. I'm going to give him a B too. He's been great. I don't. He's got 17 goals. He's an awesome penalty killer. The Blackhawks PK has been markedly better this year, other than last night. But their PK has been very good, and he's played the kind of role that you expected him to. I mean, there's nothing flashy. All of a sudden, he'll pot a goal, and it'll be like, hey, awesome. I mean, if you told me in the beginning of the year Mikheyev would have 20 goals, I would take it for who he is and what he's worth. I certainly think he could play a third and fourth line role moving forward with his team. And so that's what I got. I mean, kind of what you see is what you get with him, which is not always a terrible thing. Jimmy, Ilya.
Yeah, you were just speaking on it, and we talked about it at the beginning of the season when talking about expectations for Mikheyev. It was just, hey, can this guy get a defensive part of his game going? Because when he was in Toronto and Vancouver, he was just a secondary scorer that benefited a lot from having a lot of talent around him. But this year, like, again, you mentioned he's on the PK. Not only that, he's the only skater on the Blackhawks with a shorthanded goal. Like, he's the only one.
He has two, I believe.
He has two. Those are both.
Yeah.
Those are both of the Blackhawks shorthanded goals this season. Yeah. I mean, and we got a second-round pick just to take on his contract for this year and next. I mean, if he can come in next year and continue this role, I think he's played up to his contract, and getting a second-round pick for the guy, I mean, it feels like highway robbery. It feels like the Dickinson trade right now, minus this last year with Dickinson, where we took a second-round pick from Vancouver for basically nothing to get a productive skater.
Yeah. No, I mean, I don't. Yeah. And he's been great. And Bart, I want to defer to you, but real quick, I mean, it's kind of like, is he going to change his game the way that Michael Frolik did? It kind of seems like that's where it's leading. But what do you think of Mikheyev and his season, Bardo?
Yeah, I think you go back to what Jimmy just said about expectations. And I think when the trade happened, I think a lot of us really didn't know much about him or what to expect. And we were all hopeful that, okay, maybe he could be that offensive guy, that secondary scorer. And also, we were concerned about his health, and he stayed healthy, and, he's been productive. He's been excellent on the penalty kill, arguably the best penalty killer they've had all season. And, look, 17 goals, I would have signed up for that. If he can be a third line player next year, I'm assuming that they upgrade the top six, and that pushes him down to the third line. I'd be happy with that.
Yeah. Good call. Johnny, what do you think?
I'm giving him an A. He exceeded my expectations. Like, all right. I like it. Going in. Like, no, he's getting close to a career high in points. Like, he's a great penalty killer. But then, like, when he scores goals, it's not just garbage goals. Like, he flashes some offensive talent when he scores.
Yeah, they're nice.
Like Mark Lazarus summed it up. He turns into Connor Bedard for Connor McDavid for one play a game. And either it goes in or it doesn't. And you just see it. And you're like, where did that come from?
Yeah.
And so I'm giving him an A. I think he exceeded my expectation of what we were getting.
All right.
And if he hits his career high, I think his career high is 30 something. He's close to it. Yeah. I think he's worth an A.
Yeah. On this team, good. Yeah. All right. Good report card. Mm-hmm. Good report card. So that Jimmy, you're up, and now we're going to discuss the enigma, I guess, if you will, the often misunderstood Lukas Reichel, who Jimmy gave a C to. This one might take some time, folks. Bear with us.
Yeah, I gave him a C. I was speaking about this to Andy and Bardo before the show. I mean, it was only going up for him after last season. Last season was just abysmal for Lukas. He couldn't find a place in the roster. I think he spent time in Rockford. He looks so out of place. But this year, he kind of stabilized. I think he's finding a decent role, which is fourth line center, and he's been okay at it. He can take faceoffs. He's not great at it, but he can take faceoffs. His skills, his speed is still an asset. Speed will always be an asset in the NHL, and he still has it. And in some areas of his game, he is improving. Yes, he still makes the mistakes that we all hate very often. I mentioned he has also noticeable cold streaks. I think after that 2-point game against Philly way back in November, and everyone was like celebrating the reemergence of Reichel. I think he went like 13 games in a row without a point, and I think he went like 3 points in 20 after that game. So he does noticeably dip. But I think a C is fair. he had nowhere to go but up, and he did. He went up. He improved. He looks like a decent fourth-line center at a young age. I mentioned in the article, it's like, okay, if he has one more year in his contract, if he has another year like this next year, it's not going to be good enough. Like, this is a good stepping point. But, like, for the 2025-26 season, if you give about 25 points in an 82-game season again, like, you're hitting the curb. But after what we saw last season and what we're seeing this season, I think he's rebounded to at least NHL fourth-liner role.
Call Bardo. What do you think of Lucas?
Yeah, I mean, I agree about giving him a C. I think, he really had nowhere to go but up. He's found a home, I guess, temporarily at least, on the fourth line. And I think you said the right word, which is stabilized. Now, the question is, Maroon's going to retire. He seems to be close with him. What happens next? And quite frankly, I don't think he is a fourth line type of player unless the Hawks are going to go with a more skilled type of fourth line. So I'm curious to see what the future is and what next year looks like, if he is even on this team next year, because he's too skilled to be a fourth liner of the traditional sense, but he's not going to break the top six. And I'm not sure. And maybe he's a third liner. I just don't know where he fits next year. So, he does a few things. I mean, like his speeds is an asset. He's got some decent hands, but I just don't know where he fits on this team. So that's the problem. But for now, C.
Okay. Sean?
Yeah, I think he's a C. I think we always, or maybe I just bring it up all the time, but he shouldn't have been picked in the first round. He was like a second round grade. They reached for him. So that's why I think, like, because he was a first round pick, everybody thinks his ceiling was so much higher. And this might just be what he is. And I mean,
which is fine. I mean,
it's fine. Yeah.
If you're a late first round pick and you're a forward, this is sometimes what you get.
Maybe next year he can score some more goals. Like everybody said, consistency is key for him. He's starting to at least play a little bit better. That flash he showed a couple of years ago, as Andy's pointed out on this pod multiple times, people figured him out, and it's taken a while for his game to adjust. So C is perfect. I agree with Jimmy's assessment on this one.
All right. Yeah, I'm going to go with that too. I'm going to go with the C, just like everybody else. There's just, and it's kind of like, I don't know I know we keep referring back to this being a classroom in some sense, but it's kind of like, if you're a teacher and you're teaching Lucas Reichel, you're like, here's where you are right now, and I'm really not sure how this is going to end. Like, I don't like, we know you work hard, like really appreciate your effort. There's some things conceptually you're getting. There's other things you're just really not. And we're just not sure what left on the syllabus and in the material you're going to grasp and you're not going to grasp. It's just kind of like, that's just kind of where he is. And so I think a C is totally warranted, totally appropriate.
Yeah, he's like an C student that got thrown into
describe what you do here. It's office space.
What is it? Right, yeah. I speak to the customers.
I'm a goddamn people person.
Do you actually speak to customers? Well, my secretary does.
I work with the people.
It's a jump to conclusions, Matt.
All right, Bardo, you're up next. And we got a good one here. Teuvo Teravainen, who Jimmy gave an A. What do you think?
I agree with that. I mean, he's been really good. As a distributor, I mean, I think he leads the team in assists, or he's second. He's been great on the power play. I'd like to see his goals a little bit higher, but 15, I'm okay with that. He might hit 20. We'll see. But sometimes I think what you said, Jimmy, in the piece as that sometimes he overly is a pass first kind of guy. He does give up some shots and pass on that. So, but look, for a first year being on this team, I'm happy with it. I give him an A. I think it was a solid signing. It's not expensive. 3 years, $5.5 million. That's nothing.
No, it's not bad. Yeah, I like that take. What do you think, Shawnee?
Yeah, I'll stick with an A. 56 points. He's up from what he had last year. He had 53 last year. He'll probably get some more. The big knock, like everybody says, is he doesn't shoot enough.
Yeah.
And he knows it. And he says it. He knows he doesn't.
Yeah.
but he's done some really nice things. He's been pretty good on the power play. I think he'll fit in with hopefully some of the prospects they get from the NCAAs and stuff like that. And then in 2 years after his deal's up, maybe you let him go or you sign him. But for this season, I'll give him an A.
All right, I like it. Yeah, I'm gonna stick with that too. Good, solid A. 30 years old, but to your point, Sean, like he totally acknowledges. Yeah, I pass first sometimes in too many situations. But for this team, he's been great. But his vision is ridiculous.
Yeah,
I mean, some of the passes he makes is. I mean, and again, this is a Chicago Blackhawks draft pick. He's here. I guess we're not done with Stan Bowman. Now that you think about it, we all talked about Seth. We all talked about the Seth Jones trade.
But I think because Tavo left, and was but yeah,
I'm kind of trying to. I don't have a point.
Just
Point
say
is,
something about Dylan Strome.
he's had a great season. He deserves the A. Jimmy, any other thoughts on TT?
No, I mean, you guys all covered it. He's a great distributor. Again, he probably should shoot more, but 15 goals is nothing to scoff at.
Right.
Awesome.
Well, I think we're moving on to the D. Folks, we know we talked about we were going to have a lot of information for you also on the Ice Hogs as far as letter grades for them. We're going to defer to the next podcast and give Jimmy the floor for 15, 20 minutes to talk about the second half of his article, which will still be relevant next week. So make sure that you're reading and do read his article. But we still need to get to the D and the goalies. And so that's what we're going to focus on next. And, Sean, fortunately or unfortunately, you have the distinguished honor of kicking us off with a letter grade for TJ Brody.
Jimmy gave him an F, and I think that's appropriate. TJ Brody sucks. Like, he's absolutely terrible this year. I'm sorry. Like, He looks like he should. He doesn't. He looks lost. Like, I don't think he could play in the NHL anymore. That's how bad he is. And they signed him for 2 years to stabilize that back end. And he's just been bad. Like, I'd much rather see my boy Luis Crevier, or Creever, as we like to call him, on the blue line, as opposed to TJ Brody. I'd take Nolan Allen. I'd even take Isaac Phillips back over TJ Brody. That's how bad he is.
Yeah.
So, yes, F.
Yeah.
Bardo, you're muted.
Yeah, no, I can't disagree. I think that when they made the signing, the TJ Brody, he's going to get bought out. I think that a lot of people, myself included, are saying, "Oh, veteran signing." He had a pretty decent run in Toronto. I think that we saw pretty early on, that all the criticism on Toronto's blue line was warranted as far as their struggles in the postseason.
Right idea, wrong player is what it was.
Yeah, exactly. It has not fit. It hasn't gone well. If you're a defenseman in today's NHL and skating is your weakness, you're not going to survive. And that's what we've seen. It's pretty cut and dried. It's plain and simple. He's not really an NHL hockey player anymore. Congrats on a great career, TJ Brody. You failed this season. Jimmy, what else can you say?
There's nothing to say. What does he do well? I couldn't find anything he did well.
No.
He's getting outplayed on the right way.
I mean, maybe there was a practice where he threw a really nice backhand sauce. I don't know.
It's just bad. It's not a good season for him.
Yeah. Jimmy, anything else on TJ Brody?
I refer to him as Kyle Davidson's biggest free agent failure in my article. I think there's no denying that. This is a tough mark on Kyle Davidson's resume.
Yeah.
It's a skid mark.
On the underpants of society.
Welcome to the show where all we do is talk about Blackhawks and quote movies.
Yeah, right. We're grading the worst team in the NHL, second to last team in the NHL. What fun. So I'm up with Alec Martinez, who Jimmy gave a C- to. I'm going to stay right with the C-. I think that is appropriate. I think he's avoiding the D range, and I think a lot of that is just based on his experience. He's not a point producer. He's had a couple goals here that have been fun. I think there's a lot to learn from the younger guys for playing with a guy like Alec Martinez, who's got 2 cups, maybe the most famous goal in Los Angeles Kings history. and 2 really big playoff goals as a Los Angeles King. One that absolutely broke our hearts in 2014. Very nice of Nick Leddy to kind of punch that in past Crawford. Thank you, Nick. But yeah, I mean, he's at the end of the line here. You know, his body's pretty beat up. You couldn't trade him at the trade deadline. I don't think there would be any takers out there. He is a UFA after this season, right? They only signed him
they only signed him for 1 year.
Just so he's just a plugger. Jimmy, I really like your take. A diet version of Connor Murphy. Yeah, but now Connor Murphy is not the strongest soda out there either. It's not like Jolt Cola or anything like that. So I'm going with the C- with Alec Martinez and Jimmy. Any thoughts? And we can go around the room.
Yeah, I mean, he's a stay-at-home D-man that can score every once in a while. He's a safe pairing for young players. Like when Levchinov was brought up, he was with Martinez basically the entire time until Martinez got injured.
So 1 period.
2 games, all right?
He got hurt the first game he played in.
Yeah, but he came back the next game.
Oh, okay.
But like, you know, he was a guy that, you know, the coaches trusted to just give minutes with young players. Levchinov, one of them. You know, we saw Allen with him often. I think that's just what his role was. Hey, you're a safe bet. You know, we're not going to expect a ton from you, but you're going to keep the little guys, you know, the young guys from feeling completely out of place. And he filled his role. I mean, he didn't blow me away. A C- is fine. He kind of did his job, and health never could be figured out. He only played 43 games this year, and that's what he'll play for the rest of the year. So that was rough.
Yeah. You feeling same way there, Bardo, Shawnee?
Yeah, I think he's been fine. I don't think he's been great. I don't think he's been terrible. I think he's done what you would expect for basically being a third pairing guy. You know, still plays pretty well defensively, can chip in a goal here and there. So I think he's been fine.
I think if TJ Brody wasn't so bad, I think we'd be more critical of Martinez. I think TJ Brody just being so bad is giving us a little rose-colored glasses on Alex Martinez.
Yeah, no, that's a good call. Good call. So one of the longer tenured Blackhawks still currently on the roster is next. And Jimmy, you gave Connor Murphy a B-. Tell us why.
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned Alec Martinez is the diet version of Connor Murphy. Connor Murphy is just a better version of Martinez. A little bit better on the offensive side. He only has a goal, but he has 16 assists. He can distribute a little bit better. And I mentioned, again, he's a safe partner for young defensemen, and that's what his role has kind of been. You know, when Korchinski comes up and plays on Friday, I would bet he plays with Murphy on that second pairing, and that's good. And I said Murphy's play is basically just good, not great. He's just been the stable part while this team has had a ton of moving parts on the defensive side and other guys just not performing well. Case in point, Brody. But yeah, a B- feels fair. He's very
odd.
Oh no, ladies and gentlemen, the grade buster.
What's up, boys?
Just when we're
What's
winding
going on?
Feel free to continue.
No,
I'm just here for the goalies.
You're in the rotation now.
Goalies are in you're in luck because we're about to talk about
right
it.
I know. That's why I jumped on you. I figured you're going to be talking about goalies, so I'm going to jump in.
All right,
Adam,
Adam,
need that net perspective.
All right. Anyway, sorry to interrupt you, Jimmy. Well, I didn't. He did.
No, that's about it. It's just
right.
Murphy is just good, not great. He's a safe pairing for young players when they make their call up. He's going to be with Korchinski probably the rest of the year. He's nothing special, but he does his job. He's not overpaid.
Yeah.
He's not abysmal. Like he had a bad game yesterday on the penalty kill, but Devils power play was so fast. I think it was probably their best power play game of the year. But yeah, a B- is fine. He filled his role.
Not bad. Bardo, what do you think?
Yeah, I think B is fine. B-, that's fine too. I think the one concern I have, which you mentioned as a negative, is injuries. I mean, is this guy's body, which has taken a lot of punishment, is it starting to break down? We're starting to see a couple of seasons in a row where he's been banged up. So I just don't know how much he's got left in the tank physically. So that's my only concern as we move forward.
Yeah. Okay. Sean, anything on him?
Yeah, B minus C maybe. Health is the big thing.
That's the thing. I'm with you. I'm going C.
Yeah,
I'm Connor Murphy'd out, folks.
yeah.
This is a guy who's never playing a full season and he doesn't know how to win. Tell me your value.
Yep.
I mean, I don't know. I'm just kind of, I don't know. He's had a really long NHL career to this point, and he's just kind of there.
The Stan Bowman gift that keeps on giving.
Any thoughts, Gatekeeper, on our guy before we defer? Or we're gonna go Vlasic. Who's up for Vlasic? I think it's Bardo's up for Vlasic, and then I'm sorry, Sean, we are gonna skip you and go to Gate for the goalies, though. Last questions.
No, I got nothing on Connor Murphy. I mean, you guys said it pretty much all about him. He seems like he's got a lot of miles on him, and he's starting to wear down.
Got it. Mm-hmm. All right. Alex Vlasic, Bardo.
Yeah.
You're for Alex Vlasic with who Jimmy gave a B plus. Tell me more.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go A minus on him. I like that he seems to have added a little bit more offense to his game. He's still, solid defensively and looks like he could be a good first pairing guy. I mean, let's also remember relative to expectations. I know last year was sort of his breakout year, but now he's sort of, taking another step forward in his game. And, when he was drafted, I don't think any of us thought he was going to be a first pairing guy.
No.
He still looks like he could be a first pairing guy. So I'm going to say A minus. I think he's been really good.
All right. I like it. Shawnee.
Since I'm going to be skipped, no, I'm kidding. I'm going to go with B minus. I think there's been more poor game. Like Jimmy put in his noticeable poor games. And I think there's been more of them this season. Like there's been more noticeable poor games than there were last season. I think last season, we noticed him playing well but we never really saw the stinkers. We've seen a couple really bad Alex Vlasic games this year.
Yeah.
And I think that's why he gets a B minus in my book. You gotta, if you're going to be a top 4 elite defender, like you have to be consistently at one level and not go below it. And going below it, I think, is why I'm going to give him the B minus this year.
Okay, that's fair. I'll split the difference. I'll go B for all the reasons that you stated. I mean, he's got a great future. Great future, but he has had a little bit of some sophomore slumpish moments. Even though last year technically wasn't his rookie year by number of games, his first full season in the league.
Have Eric debate somebody on Twitter about it.
Yeah, it's awesome. But yeah, so I think. A good solid B is the year for him in my book too. Gate, any thoughts? Jimmy, any thoughts on Alex Vlasic?
No.
You guys covered it. I mean, I give him B plus just because when he's on, he is the best defenseman on the Blackhawks, and he has basically the entire year. Not a high bar, but he reaches it. And yeah, I mentioned just noticeably poor games, and when he has bad games, the team has a bad game. Just kind of like with Bertuzzi, I wrote you need to find consistency. You just got to bring it every game. Like your bare minimum has to just be a lot better. But yeah, I gave him B plus. I think that was fair.
Yeah. Cool. All right. So there's only one goalie that fits Jimmy's article criteria because Peter Mrazek was traded away. Spencer Knight, the sample size is too small. Drew Commesso has only had 2 games with the Blackhawks. So the only one is Arvid Soderblom. And so since the Gatekeeper showed up and he's got the goalie knowledge, the net perspective, as Sean said, we're going to go to Gatekeeper, then Sean. Jimmy rated him a C. What are your thoughts, Gate?
I said I might give him a little bit higher, like a B minus, but I mean, that's really, that's just semantics at that point. I mean, he's been way better this year than he was last year. Mm-hmm. He pretty much turned it around. I'm not going to, he's not Vezina quality, but he's been a pretty serviceable backup to Mrazek. And, he's kind of turned his career around a little bit. I'm not, I don't know where he's going to end up. I mean, he's no Colin Delia or anything, but, he probably still has a future. He's still young. He's like 24, I think still. He's big. He moves pretty well, like, a little bit of fine tuning, and I think he'll be all right. But I don't think he's the starter of the future. I mean, you've got Spencer Knight, you got Drew Commesso, you got Adam Guyan in college, and so you're pretty you're pretty good at goaltending right now for the Blackhawks. So it's going to come down to just, the last man standing. And I don't think Soderblom is going to be that last man standing, but he's fine for what he is right now. And I think B- is good for him.
Okay, cool. I like that. What do you think, Shawnee?
Yeah, I agree with Gate actually. Up until the last
shockingly,
up until the last few starts, he'd been really, really good. Like I believe his save percentage was right around league average, maybe a little bit above.
Mm-hmm.
And then he had some real clunkers in there. Now, some of them was the defense in front of him wasn't very good. Some of them he just had a bad game. But I think there was up until like this last 4 or 5 starts, he was really good.
Yeah.
So, and compared to what he was last year, let's not forget, he averaged giving up 4 goals a game almost. It was like 3.89. There was at one point, it was like 15 starts in a row where he gave up 4 goals or more.
Well, I think a lot of people were done with him after last year.
Yeah.
I was done with him last year.
Totally
I was like, this guy might be broken forever.
Yeah, we're ready to write him off. And I think I would lean towards a low B with him too, just for exceeding expectations, I guess, in that sense. And I don't know, he might be a solid number 2 for next year. Probably will be. I don't know. Bardo, Jimmy, do you have any other thoughts on Arvid?
I think as a number 2, I think he's fine. I think if it was January, I probably would have given him a B-, but since his recent streak where he hasn't really played that well, I dropped him to about a C. But he really had overall nowhere to go but up. He's another one of those players that probably was an F last year, and now he's gone to a C, so that's fine. And I think he could be a fine backup. I think that's all you need.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's a backup on a bad team. I don't know his long-term future with this team.
That's a pretty good take, actually.
Like, I think in 2 years, it's Comesso's job, unless Soderblom, blows it out of water. He's an RFA this offseason. I just worry bringing him back on a multi-year deal, and what he really is last year, and this year was the mirage.
Yeah.
That being said, I mean, he recovered. He's had a bad couple weeks, but I mean, he's still only 25. He's about 900 save percentage. Improvements across the board, but like I said with Reichel, there was nowhere to go but up. But, C is kind of where I give him. I don't want to overvalue his improvement because even then, he's still kind of an goaltender.
Yeah. Comesso's run though recently, like remember Comesso was kind of until they traded for Spencer Knight, and then Comesso took his game to a whole nother level. So
yeah, I did mention that in the article. I think I said if I had made this in January, I'd give him a C+. He being Drew Comesso.
Yeah, got it. Yeah, well, good stuff. Awesome. Well, that brings us to the end of our letter grades for the Chicago Blackhawks. Next week, we'll dedicate 15, 20 minutes. Jimmy's going to talk about the second half of his article with some more prospect grades and a lot of the Rockford IceHawks grades, but inclusive of those that are some back and forth guys.
Yeah, we'll hear more about guys like Nazar, Slaggert, Doc, Allen.
Those are kind of the hybrids we're going to get into next week.
The phenom.
Don't say inclusive too loud, or you're going to have people mad.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Oops. Sorry. Thank you for catching that.
Yeah.
A real quick. While I take the Arvid Soderblom banner down and keep that Arvid Soderblom C. Let's just leave that up there forever. Couple tidbits of Hawks news. One, Kevin Korchinski has been called up today. I was helplessly late trying to DM my friends about it and was reminded that someone brought it up hours beforehand. So sorry, Ray, that I was 3 hours late to the Korchinski call-up party.
It is the Blackhawks' final call-up this season.
Yeah, so he gets called up. He goes back down for playoffs, I assume. I mean,
I would assume so, yeah.
How many games can he actually even play in?
Jimmy, when does the AHL playoff start?
Give me 1 second. 1 second.
Because how many games are left in the Hawks season? Like 15, 20?
Yeah, they're at 70 games right now.
So there's 12.
12, yeah.
So the playoffs, let's see, when does it start?
Lev Shinov will play in the playoffs, AHL playoffs as well.
Yeah, the guys on the Blackhawks that can play in the AHL playoffs are Ethan Del Mastro, Colton Dock, Kevin Korchinski, and Artem Levshinov. The playoffs start on
Soon as
the
our
regular,
okay.
the AHL regular season ends April 20th.
Mhm.
So I would assume, I think their regular season goes like a week or two further than the NHL. So I think those 4 guys I had just mentioned could probably play all the way to game 82 for the Blackhawks and then be sent down and have another week with Rockford, who I don't want to say are a guarantee in the playoffs, but essentially are. They're 12 points above Iowa with like, I think their magic number is 12. They basically have to lose out and Iowa would have to win out if Iowa wanted to make it. And that would suck if that happened, but I don't see it happening.
Gotcha. Interesting. Cool. One other thing just going on in the NHL that wanted to mention. Our friend Coach Tortorella was dismissed by the Philadelphia Flyers. With Torts being fired, relieved of his duties, if you will, you're going to start to hear a lot of buzz of, oh, is he a good fit with the Blackhawks? Because the Blackhawks will be looking for a new coach. And folks, if you're watching this live, all you had to look at was the shaking of the heads from us. No, thank you. Who in this room, in this chat room, would be excited if Tortorella was the Blackhawks coach?
I'd only be excited about the sound bites. And that's about it.
I just don't see it. I mean, it's not there anymore for him. I mean, isn't it just results oriented?
He doesn't really work well with young superstars. Look what how he treated Mitchkov.
Yeah,
right.
He just beat Mitchkov down into submission, and you don't want Connor Bedard getting beat down. You want to let him be creative and be who he is.
No, he just hasn't changed his style to the modern young hockey player.
No.
There's a reason why he's bounced around. I mean, it's like we saw Mike Keenan and how he wears on teams, and he was on 6 or 7 teams or whatever it was. I mean, Tortorella's right there. So we've already spent 2 minutes too much on him. So let's.
Yeah, I like it.
I'll just share my one story about Torts that I will always remember. In the 2004 Stanley Cup Finals, after the Tampa Bay Lightning won and he was the head coach, the players locked him out of the celebration. They didn't really want to celebrate with him. He led them to the Stanley Cup championship, and they said, I don't want to celebrate with my own coach. That tells me all I need to know about Torts, and that was 2 decades ago.
Wow.
Yeah, that was some time ago.
You know,
yeah. Honestly, put him on TNT.
He's more entertaining.
He'd be an awesome analyst.
Just have him and Biz go at it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the money, just having him up there, his sound bites would be amazing. Or get him on ESPN. I
may have to put him on Max because I have a feeling the bleep button might have to be used a couple times with Tortorella.
Yeah.
All that being said, though, he seems like a good dude. Like, generally a good guy, caring dude and everything. It's just as far as like coaching goes, it seems like that he's stuck in the past generation, and he can't really, relate to what the guys are like nowadays.
No,
so I think like somewhere else in hockey, he's probably great. But as for a coach of the Blackhawks, a young team like this, I think it would be a disaster.
I think you said it as a broadcaster, or an analyst, he'd be great. He really would be.
Yeah. Gate, that's a great call too. He's a good guy. Like, he's not like a bad person or anything. Like, I mean, he was great with Guy Gaudreau. And also how he handled the whole Cutter Gauthier situation.
Yeah.
I thought it was pretty admirable. I mean, it'd be very easy for him to get out there when Cutter Gauthier said, I'm not playing for the Flyers, and asked for a trade, to be like, well, screw that kid, get him out of here if he doesn't want to play for us. But he was, with the media, he was very much like, I haven't spoken with him. I don't know why this is going on, but leave the kid alone. Obviously there's a reason, and just let him be. Like, leave the kid alone. So,
and I think his last press conference as a coach for the Flyers, I think it kind of reflected that. He basically said, I haven't been good enough. Like, he basically said to the reporters, I don't deserve this job because I'm not good enough at it.
Yeah.
That's the honesty you get with Torts.
And I think that's why he got fired with 5 games or 9 games, however many games they have left. That's why he got fired.
It's so interesting. When they hired him a couple of years ago, I mean, who could have possibly envisioned this ending well? I don't know. What are you going to do?
He's on the bottom of my list for coaches I want for the Blackhawks.
He's
in a dogfight with Sorensen for bottom of that list.
No. Jeremy Colleton below all those guys.
Oh,
they had to show him last night. Bardo and I got very upset about it. So,
Yeah.
I'm a Sully guy. I'll say it right now. I'm a Sully guy.
All right. I like it. Solely.
Mike Sullivan, for those who don't know, nickname.
was
Thank
gonna
you.
say,
Thank
I
you.
was gonna
I
say,
thought you said solely, like Soley. I'm like,
No,
what?
Mike
Yeah, I
Sullivan,
was like, is
former
Mike
head coach of
Wazowski
the Pittsburgh.
coming to coach
Sully.
the Hawks? Like,
Sully.
Jimmy, I thought you were going down the road of Gordon Soley or something like that. So.
When you said solely, I was like, go back to Starbucks. Jeez.
No, I think
Solly
the
drink
pilot that landed that plane in the Hudson.
Sully.
That's who I want coaching the Blackhawks next year.
If
You
if
can
he
save
could
those lives,
if
you
he
can
could
manage
land the plane in the
hockey
Hudson, he
team.
could land the Hawks.
Exactly, man. Smooth landing. But yeah, I'm in the Mike Sullivan train. I know we make fun of the CHGO guys a ton, and they're on this Mike Sullivan train. But I'm gonna join them on the Sullivan train.
Yeah, he'd be a good coach.
What about the coach from North Dakota who just got fired? Would he be a candidate at all?
I am in the camp of I don't want the Blackhawks' 5th consecutive coach to not have any previous NHL coaching experience.
I agree. I think they need to build the room.
Yeah. Since Q, it's been Colleton, King, Richardson, Sorensen. It's like I can't do a 5th guy without any experience.
Can you say that one more time?
Yeah.
Oh, you mean Colleton, King, Richardson, Sorensen? You know, a lot of sons.
I'm gonna go start drinking.
So, yeah.
That sounded terrible.
Water, hopefully, some water. That's why, like, I know
it has been a pretty dismal run.
Yeah. That's why I'm bullish on who's the head coach from University of Denver.
David Carl.
David Carl. A ton of people like him. I don't hate him. I'm bullish on it. I want a little NHL experience.
I understand.
Yeah, I did too.
Well, good stuff tonight, fellas. Hour and 11 minutes. Great show. Folks, thanks for listening. Gabe, thanks for jumping in, man. Good to see you. Good to see you, my friend. And we'll be back next week. We'll let you know the date and time. We're going to do some more letter grades for the hybrids, the Rockford IceHog / Blackhawks. And folks, read Jimmy's article if you haven't with the letter grades. He put a lot of time into it. I
may have something on CHSN before then.
Awesome. And Bardo, good luck to UMass. Puck drop about to happen.
Let's go.
Good luck to the Minutemen. Good luck to all the Hawks prospects in the NCAAs. Also, make sure that you're all listening to Gates' show, The Net Perspective. When you see tweets about it, if you want analysis on the life of a goalie from a goalie, he's your guy.
And by the way, Blackhawk fans should want to have UMass win tonight, because if they do, that means Minnesota's done. That means
there you go.
Sam Renzel and Oliver Moore into Chicago quicker. So
yeah, I was actually really hoping that I was rooting for Ohio State, which is really weird.
And by the way, Minnesota State and Western Michigan are in overtime right now. 1-1.
Are they really? All right, time to tune that. Are they? Wow. Yeah, it's in the 4th period. That's right. All right. Go watch some overtime hockey. Go watch some Sweet 16. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening. Thank you for the thumbs up from Doug McKinney on Facebook. Appreciate you, guy. And take care, everybody.